learning goal for today will be I will mentally multiply decimals by 10, 100, and 1,000. Please take a minute and write this in your notes. Before we get started, I want you to think about what you already know, and that's the rule for multiplying whole numbers by 10, 100, and 1,000. And when we multiply any whole number by multiples of 10, we simply add the 0 to the end of it. As you see in our example here, 5 times 10, we are taking 1 times 5 and then adding 1 0 to the end of it, giving us an answer of 50. When we take 5 times 100, we're really taking 5 times 1, adding up or counting up our zeros and adding them to the end of the answer, giving us an answer of 500. Same thing for 1,000. 5 times 1 is 5. There's 3 zeros in 1,000. Add that to the end, we get 5,000. Remembering this rule will help us when multiplying decimals because we are going to be counting up the same number of zeros in 10, 100, and 1,000 to help us move our decimal point. Now let's take a look at the rule for multiplying decimals by multiples of 10 or powers of 10. When we multiply with decimals, we count up the number of zeros and we move the decimal point to the right based on that number of zeros. So if we're multiplying by 10, we're going to move the decimal point to the right 1 time. If we're multiplying by 100, we move it 2 times, and 1,000 3 times. If we look at our examples over here, 8.56 times 10, we're moving our decimal point 1 spot. Instead of between the 8 and the 5, it now becomes in between the 5 and the 6, giving us an answer of 85.6. Our second example is 0.36 times 100. We move it 2 spots, giving us an answer of just 36. Finally, again, multiplying it by 1,000, we take 4.5 times 1,000 and gives us an answer of 4,500 because we move our decimal point 3 places. So now, instead of adding zeros to our final answer, we're moving the decimal point, the total number of zeros that we're multiplying by. Let's take a look at this story problem. A baker buys some of his ingredients he uses in bulk. He purchases or needs to purchase 10 pounds of pecans and 100 pounds of flour. How much will the baker spend for each amount? Well, if the baker is going to be spending $2.89 per pound on pecans, we're going to be taking 289 times 10. And if he's going to be spending 45 cents per pound on flour, we're going to be taking 45 cents times 100. To find out how much the baker is going to spend, again, we're going to need to take $2.89 times 10. 10 has 1 0 in it, so I'm going to end up moving my decimal point 1 spot to the right. So when I write my answer, I know my answer is going to have 289 in it. And now it's simply taking a look that I'm going to move my decimal point to the right 1 spot because there's 1 0 in 10. And he is going to end up spending $28.90 on pecans. When we take a look at how much he'll spend on flour, again, we're going to take a look at where the decimal is in 45 cents. And he's buying 100 pounds of it, which means there are 2 zeros. I'm going to move it 2 spots. So my answer becomes $45. He will spend $45 on flour. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of examples here. Remember, you can use your chart over here to the left if you need it to help you to remember how many places you move the decimal point. Here we're multiplying by 10, so we're going to, based on our chart, move our decimal point 1 spot to the right. Since our decimal point starts here, we'll just move it 1 spot to the right, giving us our answer of 0.09. In our next example, we're taking 0.5 45 times 100 again, and I'm going to move my decimal point 2 spots, giving me an answer of 45. In our third example, we are going to end up needing to add some zeros. Now, we know that we're taking 1 times 31 in a sense. So I'm going to go ahead and put 31 down as my answer because I know that's going to be part of my answer. And since my decimal point started here, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 spots because there's, again, 3 zeros in 1,000. And those empty placeholders, I'm going to add zeros, giving me a final answer of 3,100. In this example, I'm taking 7.4 times 10. I'm just going to move the decimal point 1 spot over, giving me an answer of 74. In the problem 62 thousandths times 100, I know I'm going to be moving my decimal point 2 spots because there's 2 zeros in 100, giving me an answer of 6.2, or 6 2/10. In our final example here, again, we're going to be needing to add a 0 to the end of our answer. Again, remember we're essentially multiplying by 1, and if we forget that the decimal is even there to start with, we're taking 124 times 1, so I know 124 is going to be in my answer. If I take a look at the decimal point, I'm moving it 1, 2, 3 spots, which requires me to add a 0 for that placeholder, giving me an answer of 1,240.